Beyonce, which of course we know as your daughter.
Right.
But this was a surname, often spelled differently for each of the 7 children,
Yes.
including yourself.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that, because it intersects with racism.
Yes, it does. Well, the name is originally spelled Boyance. And when my parents came to Texas, they had the spelling somehow of Beyince. And then when we enrolled in school, whatever our birth certificate said, that is what you become, in school. And I remember asking my mom, because my brother was teaching me how to write my name, and he said, "Oh, no, your name is spelled differently." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "I don't know." And so I asked my mom, and she said that whatever your birth certificate said in the hospital, that's what you went by. And I said, "Well, why didn't you make them change it?" And she said, "Well, I did try once, and the nurse told me, be happy that you got a birth certificate." Because, my other brothers and sisters, other than me and my youngest brother, they were all born in a colored hospital. And so I'm sure that they had no rights. Like, we didn't care enough to correct it. So the names are all very different, which was embarrassing for us as kids. My brother's name was Beyince. One brother's name was Buyince, and my name was Beyonce, which is where Beyonce's name came from.
And where, maybe you'd like to share with our listeners, where you got the inspiration to call your daughter that name?
Well, because there were no boys. We have one boy to carry on the name, and thank God he's had a son named Avenue Beyonce, which is so cool. But we didn't have any boys, and so I thought it was a gift to my father to name her Beyonce, and I thought he would be happy. But of course, he said, "That baby's gonna be mad at you because you named him a last name." And I'm like, nobody knows it's a last name but us.
Could you imagine what that word then became?
Oh my God. And the fact that my dad did not get to see that and my mom didn't get to see their name just everywhere, even though, spelling is different. Yeah, who would have thought that that name would be, a household word now? She won this contest and we were like blown away because we knew she could sing, because that's all she did was sing and write little songs when she was like 6. And but I was just put her in dance class because she was shy. But I have to say that it's a complicated thing because she was shy around strangers because she always checked them out and studied people before but once she got comfortable with you, she was so outgoing, and she was so outgoing with us. But then she would go to school or go somewhere else and be, kind of shy and laid back. And she's still pretty much that way today. I don't know if I would call it shy, but she is not the belle of the ball.
She's
person.
reserved
She's
somewhat.
very reserved, and she checks people out. She's still checking them out just to feel them out before she is her,
Jumps
can
in
be
with 2
comfortable.
feet.
Yeah.
Yeah. It must be quite something, though, to see. I've been lucky enough to go to some Beyonce's shows, and I have another one coming up Thursday week.
Yay.
Very exciting here in London. I don't even know how to put it into words if you haven't been there. It's like an out-of-body experience, the most expansive, alternate universe experience. That little shy 7-year-old and that woman, can you, understand that the two are the same person?
Yes, I think that is why on the stage it's such a dynamic show, because I think that she gets out of herself.
Okay.
And she becomes this other being. It's like, if it's amazing because, Oprah and Gail came into the dressing room the last tour, and they were like, "Oh my God, all these kids running around," because it had to be 10 or 12 kids playing hide and seek and, just normal everyday things, very, very down to earth, no diva behavior, just, she's down there wiping her kid's nose on the floor. And they were like, "This is so normal." And that is why I think she can be this artist, because on stage it's almost like a whole nother persona. And then she comes off stage and she's the most normal person you ever see. And that's not always the case with people.
No, I mean, you have been there, I suppose, which will have been a great anchor, a stabilizing force from when they were little girls.
Yes.
you know, whether it was Destiny's Child, I mentioned Kelly Rowland, who I didn't realize moved in with
Oh,
your
yeah,
family
she
from
was
time she was
11.
11. Yeah,
Yeah.
which is incredible.
Yeah.
This other daughter you talk about it as a gift from God. But you were so forward thinking, because as Solange and Beyonce were growing up, Beyonce obviously becoming more of a star, you sent them to therapy because you were like, I want these sisters to be close.
Yes. Well, it wasn't that she was more of a star because neither one of them was stars. They were kids. Beyonce was like maybe 11 and she had gotten in this group. And, you know, at the age of 11, I think that's when 10 or 11, and then the other sister is 5. The little sister that's 5 is all in your business. She's all in your stuff. And, you know, they go through a period where they were so tight, and then all of a sudden these other kids came and they were rehearsing every day, and Beyonce was getting irritated by her and being a little rude to Solange, and Solange was a character, you know, she was tough. But I didn't like the division with them, and I didn't like her not protecting her sister from the other kids, because the other kids would say, be quiet, Solange, get out of here, Solange, because Solange was trying to do choreography, she was trying to pick out the outfits, she was a little manager, and they would, you know, kind of be mean to her, and it terrified me, because my thing that I've always had with my girls, all 3 of them, and Angie, was you guys stick together. And no matter who else tries to come between you, you don't let anyone come between you, because you are a unit, you are a family.
And it continues. I was watching a great video last night of Solange on the side of Beyonce's show when Blue Ivy came out dancing, and she was going for it. And I was like, here, I'm about to speak to this woman who has this incredible history of her ancestors, and I see the next generations that are there as well, including Blue, Rumi, Sir, that you know, also Jules, Solange's child, that are already part of this expansive family. I mean, is there a trick to raising these confident women?
No, I just think that, you know, it's not, it doesn't come by osmosis. You have to tell your kids, you have to reinforce their value and just and the strengths that they have. Focus on the strengths and not the differences, and try to make them fit them in one mold. I think that's the best advice I think I could give, is that look at your kids as individuals. My mom was great at that. A lot of things I didn't like, you know, the way she did things, but I remember my sister had 8 children. Wow. And so she would say, Lena, Denise, Tommy, Ronnie. She, you know, she would call them all their names, because, I mean, think about having 8 stair-step kids. And my mom would say, Selena, don't do that. You know, you have to slow down and take your time. Don't ever mix them up. And as I got older, I really appreciated that about my mother, because she knew all of her kids were different and they had different needs. And, you know, in the intro of the book, Solange says, thank you for seeing that we had different needs and taking us to 3 different schools, which is super hard.
Flying around on the pickup,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, and so it was that I know that they needed different things. And so you do what you have to do to make them individual and celebrate, you know, their differences, rather than saying you have to be like your sister or your brother.
And next, what's next?
Oh, next is, you know, I'm on the tour. I always help with Beyonce's tours with the wardrobe.
Of course, that's what you're
and
famous for.
I enjoy it, because that's me getting to create and do what I love doing. I still do hair.
Yes, hair is beautiful.
Yeah, I love to do hair on other people in Sacred. So we have a test salon. And I don't know, I'm 71 years old and I feel freer than I've ever felt in my life.